And hello, welcome back to the Brown Girl Book Club live show. We have a guest here today. Do you mind introducing yourself? Maybe like your series that you do on your channel? I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone knows you already though.
No. I'm
Mhm.
also Jess. My channel is Jess Owens. I mean, I have a booktube channel. I do book community, which is usually a weekly recap of the bookish drama that never ends in the book community. And sometimes I talk about books, and I have a cute dog. He's not here right now. I'm sorry.
I
That's
was actually going to bother you about where Nigel was, but it's okay. If he's resting, I guess I have to be okay with that. Oh, and hello. Thanks for joining.
Hey.
Okay. Let us know in the comments if you got a chance to read Fruit Magic. So this is the book for this past month. What month was that? It's June currently. May.
Same. I was filming my wrap up and I was like, June. That month.
Oh,
May.
that month, the month that just came before. So let us know if you got a chance to read this beautiful book. I reread it last night and I am definitely in love, and I'm so happy that we voted and picked this book. So I don't know if you know, but we vote on our books every month, and it's always just such a fun time. And we also just voted on the June book, which I will announce later on at the end of the live show. But yeah, let's talk about maybe should we start? I want to give more time so people have time to like log on and stuff. So I don't know, maybe I can pester you with some questions. Is that okay?
Sure. What you got?
Sure. I am curious, and I started watching your channel maybe 3 or so months ago. What made you want to do like book community videos? I'm just like, nice answer.
It was last summer. There was like, a beef, I guess, between book Twitter and book talk. And I was so confused because I'm not on TikTok, and Twitter in general, but book Twitter loves to subtweet. So I was like, I'm so tired of searching. Like, I always have to go to my sources and be like, do you know what's going on? Do you know what this subtweet means? So once I figured it out, I was like, I'm just going to put this together in a video so people understand. And then the reading rush thing happened after that. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll just do it again. And it kind of just started that way. I already did all this daggone legwork, so I'm gonna put the story together for everyone else. So like some things are like plain and you're like, oh, I know what's happening. And some things you're like, what are y'all talking about? Everyone's talking about something, but I can't figure it out. So yes.
Well, I'm very happy for your content because it makes me not have to actually go on book Twitter and book talk often. Because I'm like, I don't need to actually be on it and waste my time. I'll just watch your video.
It could be a wild, dangerous place.
For sure. And then, hello. I like this. Double Jess time. Yes. We got two Jesses in the house. Hello. Thank you for joining. Oh, Gavin's here. Hi, Gavin. Hey. Yeah, we were just talking about, I watched your live show and Jess was just watching your live show. We loved it. Hello. Thank you guys for joining. Let us know in the chat maybe if you read Root Magic or if you're planning on reading it. And if you read it, what did you rate it? So I'm just going to dive in. I rated it 5 stars. I still haven't wrote my review because that's like a lot of effort. That's going to come later. But yeah. And I know you talked about it and you're on your channel already, but you gave it 5 stars. What kind of was the real reason? Like, oh, I love this story. Like what drew you to that story?
I think a big part for me is I'm from South Carolina, where it's set. So the book is set Sea Island outside of Charleston. I grew up like 20 minutes inland from that area, but I know people from that area have lived so it's just so rare to see a book set in South Carolina and in that area. So that was a big thing. And just I just connected to it. It felt like home. The language, the mentions of food and different superstitions, the family dynamics, and yeah, just all of that. I was like, this is just so beautiful. I was like, I can see no wrong here. It's perfect.
Yeah. I see no wrong. It is perfection. Yes. I
Ooh,
love that.
5. Yes.
Hello. 5 stars. Yes. 5 stars. Yes. Read a couple months ago. 5 stars. Yes. I'm so happy. So many 5 stars. Yay. And then I was planning on reading it before this, but that's okay. It happens. That always happens to me where I'm like, I'm going to read this book. And then I literally have like, oh, it's due in an hour. I need to return the copy. So I feel that. I hope we get a chance to read it so soon.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 5 stars. Oh, that's so sweet. That's so awesome. I'm so glad you guys really enjoyed the book. I also gave it 5 stars. I really liked how it was just packaged so perfectly. Like, I understand the culture is a huge part of it, but and I love that you felt at home reading it. I'm not from South Carolina, so I wasn't connected to that, but I loved the fact that Jezebel's growth and like her character and how like dealing with bullies and her mom and her uncle being like such a part of her life. I just loved all the aspects. I feel like if I was like 11, I would have really, really appreciated this book, talking about it's okay to be different and not letting people bring you down, like knowing your own worth and owning your own power was, I think, a big theme of this, which I was just like,
yes. I know.
As a 24-year-old woman, I was like, I need this.
I just think about, even when like reading middle grade as an adult, obviously, I can still appreciate it, but I just think about the kids who will read it, and it just almost like, you're so lucky. You're so lucky to have this. And I'm just happy it exists. But yeah, that her growth, and those are just in that age, 11, that's like peak what's going on. What you think your world feels so big and important with all those people judging you, and it's really small when you look back at it, but what she had to go through, and standing up and being how she was, what her family did, it was just like, I love it for you, queen. Yes.
On my side, you lagged a little bit. Do you mind repeating the end of it? I don't know if it lagged for anybody else, but let me know in the comments if it was a little laggy.
It's probably Andrew's video game taking up the internet, but
you should go yell at him.
I know, get off. But I was saying, for just at that age, her standing up and being proud of who she is and what her family does is, at 11, that's prime time when kids are picking on you and all of that. I just loved the message, in the story. It's okay to be different and be proud of where you came from and be proud of your heritage and your family.
It was just so sweet. It was so heartwarming. I think I honestly cried at one point. Library didn't get it in time. Oh, I'm so sad you didn't get your library needs to fix itself.
Step it up.
You feed your inner child when you meet middle grade. I completely agree.
Yes.
Yeah. When you pick up a good middle grade and you're just like, I think even as an adult, like you said, you could really read a book and just be like, wow, this brought me back. This is like, I remember being in that position. And sometimes I still feel like I'm in that position, even as an adult. So
yes.
And it's so rare to see Nolan culture portrayed in media. Yes. And I linked down a video in the description about like more current topics about what's happening to the land. Specifically, I think it is the Sea Islands. Is that what they're called? In South Carolina, about what's happening to land, trying to buy it back from families who've worked on that land for so long. And so that video is linked in the description if you guys care to watch it.
Yeah. Because before we went live, we were talking about Gavin's video interview he did with Eden Royce, which if y'all have not watched, you need to watch it. Amazing. Yes. And she was talking about having a positive portrayal of like Gullah culture and also just Southern culture, because she was saying how like a lot of media, especially like movies or TV shows, usually display Southern people, especially if they have like a strong accent. It's usually like negatively, or they're less educated. So she definitely wanted to put out a positive portrayal of like Southern and Gullah culture. So I'm glad that that's out there, because there is not a lot at all.
Yeah, I definitely really appreciate that. That's really cool. And there's some comments. A blend of great characters and family with the atmosphere in this book was perfect. Yes, I agree. One of the reasons I loved it so much. It did read so well. The whole marsh lifestyle and running around in the marsh. Like, I didn't grow up with marsh, but I could just see like how whimsical that could be, just to be like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go into the marsh and explore this world, and the world is mine, and being one with like the environment, which I feel like is really a part of like the root worker culture of just being one with land.
Yeah.
So, like, the atmosphere is so cool.
Yeah. And giving, and when you're small, something like that, like having land out on an island, the world must seem so big to have all that space. I have been watching High on the Hog, and I just watched that episode. And one of the guys that was on here there, I actually met him when I was in college. I did an internship, and I met one of the chefs. So I was like, small world.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yes, I need to watch this. I still haven't watched it. People have been yelling at me to watch it. I will watch it, but I'm very happy. That's really cool that they even mentioned that in that show.
Yeah.
And I think that High on the Hog is available on Netflix, I think, if you guys want to see. It's a show that talks about, is it specifically African cultures that they talk about for like food and things like that? I don't.
It's like how African culture, like, because they start in Africa, and then how that, you know, with slavery, and then how that's affected the culture of and cuisine of the United States. And it's really, I mean, I thought it was just gonna be about food. It's a little more emotional, so be prepared. It's kind of it pulls at your heartstrings and makes you hungry.
Good. That's what I want from every show. I want to be a little sad, but like hopeful and then hungry.
Yes, we'll do that. Oh
Love that.
I was on an island.
I didn't realize it was a real place until I was an adult. Oh, really? I didn't. Oh, that, yeah.
That was a great show.
And I was pretty ignorant about the culture going in, but I was surprised to find certain elements brought back memories. Yeah, that's so cool. And I've never made those connections before. It's so great to see like literature connecting people and ideas. And I also, and it brings back the idea that I don't need to be a part of that culture to understand it or see it. So it's really cool to see people who are part of that culture like feel represented and happy. And then also I'm like really excited that I'm like, oh my God, I learned something new. Yes. And we're fighting kind of stigmas. Like I personally didn't have a stigma towards this like group of people or anything like that, or root workers, because I kind of learned about them in college at some point. But I was like, it's really, really cool to have that. And I go in kind of with like a blank slate and not expecting much, but then coming out with this like world and this kind of magical whimsy to it, but still something as an adult that I can be like, how exciting, how happy. We love it.
Yes. I mean, and that's what I love in fiction too, is you still enjoy this story, but also take something from it. And something in that interview she was talking about with the language. And so I, like I said, grew up outside of there and knew a lot of people who spoke, maybe it wasn't directly Geechee, but definitely maybe developed dialects of it more present day. And that definitely was something that was stigmatized when I was like in high school, was like looked down upon, like, oh, you're speaking like that, like you're less educated. And so that's even, you know, still something pervasive. And that wasn't just like white people looking down at black people. That was black people to black people, you know, people who weren't Geechee looking down at like, you're not speaking proper English. So now looking at this, I think is really important, especially like present day conversations we're having on like AAVE, you know, how that's kind of looked down on, but then people want to take that language. So it's set in the 60s, but so much of it is still relevant today. And I think that's another thing I really loved about it.
Yeah. And I think the important thing that it's also geared towards kids, understanding that accepting your culture, even though it's not like mainstream, like everyone's telling you to be this specific way. And it's interesting because also all those kids who were like making fun of her for being different, it's like, I wouldn't want to grow up and be like you. Why would I change myself to be a mean person like you? Same with the police officer, the deputy. It's like, I don't want to grow up to be like you. You're telling me that I'm bad when you're the one actively trying to hurt me. So I kind of like how language is it's powerful in the sense of for education and like being able to hold yourself accountable and the knowledge you hold. But at the same time, it's like, you don't want to lose yourself. You still can be strong and empowered and hold on to your culture. And it shouldn't be a negative thing to want to be connected to your ancestors. And I love the fact that this book brought up that even people in the Black community are like, no, let that go. Like, you're making us look bad. You're making us look ignorant. And it's like, no, you're the only one making it look bad by behaving in such a way. Like,
Yeah.
if you just came up to me and went, cool, you're a root worker, or your family's, that's your ancestral path, like, cool, that's fine. You're the only one making it a bad
Yeah.
thing.
Yes. Yeah. No, I love that, because that's what so many things besides language, that it's not, it can be your own folks too. Just like in the book, she said, not all kinfolk are skin, or not all skin folk are kinfolk. I love that. And it's just something that I think comes up, especially in the Black community, with like trying to assimilate. And it's in like their mom wanted them, you know, to go to school. It's important, get your education, but it's also important to be able to do both and hold on to your heritage. So I just thought it was a great balance, and it's just so reflective of how things are not that much different now than they were back then.
Yeah. Oh, and I wanted to talk about the mom and the uncle in particular, because I think I love the fact that there's so much family in this, because sometimes in middle grade they like swoop away and like their families, like they like go to boarding school or something, and it's like there's a disconnect. But I really loved the mom and the uncle, and I kind of wanted to hear how you felt about them. If you liked how they were handling themselves. I thought it was really cool how they ingrained advice through this book while still feeling like true, authentic adults.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that, because just like you said, usually in like middle grade, young adult, the parents are there for like a page. They either killed off, or I don't know, they're at work. And I'm always like, who's watching these kids? But I always love when the parents are involved, and that I know Eden mentioned she wanted to include a perspective of someone who was hesitant about, you know, root work, the traditional path, and have someone more supportive. So I loved their role, and I understood why the mom was so hesitant for her kids to like learn root, and she wanted them to, you know, get an education, to put their best foot forward and have the best success in life. And even because in the beginning of the story, the grandmother dies. It's not a spoiler, but even just their reflections talking about her, or their relationships with her, even I was just like, oh, I just love family relationships and stories. And then the uncle, I loved his role, and that they listened to the kids, but they still were like, you know, maybe when they're crossing the line, being like, hey, now I'm the adult. So yeah, I think there was a good balance of them like trying to listen to the kids and really hear them out, give them advice, but also when it was like, I'm the parent, or I'm the adult and you're the child, you need to sit down.
You need to sit down, listen to your mother.
Yes. Don't talk back.
Yes. And I really appreciated, there's like one line in this book that like I highlighted, that the mom asked, I think it was Isabel, like, hey, do you know why I say this is for grown people? Do you understand why I'm not telling you this? And like, she's like, because you don't want me to know. And it's like, it's to protect you. It's like, you're 11. I really liked how mom kept reiterating, you're kids. You should be allowed to do kid things.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you do your chores, you help me out, but you shouldn't have the weight of the world on you.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like, that is a very optimistic approach to be like, don't teach my kids about the world and the struggle. Like, and the uncle kind of balanced out being like, well, they do live in this world, and they're going to start facing issues, and we should educate them. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like the parallel between the two. It's kind of like you said, where she's more hesitant and she's trying her best to protect her kids. But I also, and this isn't a spoiler either, I feel like, but I feel like she was so adamant about education and empowering yourself because she was a single mom working. Mm-hmm. And I feel like because of what happened to the dad, which I won't disclose till maybe later if we talk about spoilers, that she's like, I was left alone one day randomly, and I had to now take care of people and like really bring an income home. So I feel like that's also why she's hesitant, because in the real world, you have to pay the bills, you have to be able to eat, you have to do that. And she's like, root magic can be a source of income, but can we always trust it? What if the community turns against us? So I can understand all her hesitancy. And I was like, that was really cool. And I was wondering if anyone else picked that up about the mom's characters. Like, is she pro education because of what her circumstance? Because she didn't get a chance to graduate or educate herself, and she was kind of stuck, powerless.
That probably definitely was part of it. And then also with the setting being like South Carolina finally integrating schools. I think in the book they mention like with this that they'll probably have better teachers and better access, better supplies and stuff like that. And so she's probably seeing that as like, my kids can finally also have that opportunity to actually get a good education and hopefully, you know, can make something of themselves or do something that's, you know, usually Black people weren't able to do. So probably a combination of, you know, she wants them to be able to have as much opportunities as possible. But yeah, I love the balance of the uncle being like, I understand they are children, but you know, there are some realities they can't escape, unfortunately, being Black children in the South at this time. So I think they definitely had a good dynamic. And something I thought about when you were talking about like the weight of the world, I think there was a part where Jez was really like stressed out basically and went to the nurse's office, and she was like, you're 11, you know, like you have all these stresses, you're trying to take on too much. And I was just like, oh yeah, she is just 11. And she, you know, she wants to know all these things. She wants to help protect her family and all of this, but it's like at that age, you shouldn't have to, but sadly, certain children have to deal with more grown-up things sooner than other kids. So I just think the whole balance of that was really great in the book.
Yeah. And it's so cool that having a discussion about stress with a younger audience, I think is so valuable, because I feel like in these books where kids are like, you know, swooshed away and they're taking on the world, it's like they kind of get stressed out, but they never like really talk about it. So I like that the nurse kind of took time to be like, hey, this is stress. Like you want to balance this. You don't want to take on the whole world because it's bad for you.
Yeah.
And I saw some comments. You learned so much. Yay, that's great. I'm so glad. This book was really, it had so much to talk about besides like real world stuff. It had talking like magical and real world stuff. It was just such a great balance of a lot of cool things. And then Eden wrote the mother character so fantastically. She felt real and she was real. Whereas like just one, which one's just one? I want to know. Parents are usually shoved to the side in middle grade. Yeah. So it was great to see like a real mom who cares. It was fabulous. And I love the combo of magic and real world. Thanks for the great combo. Yes, it is. I'm so glad we finally can start having these conversations. But another element that I liked about the book was also kind of talking about friendship and trust. The whole, what was the character's name who is kind of a person but not?
Susie, I think. Susie?
Susie. Yes, yeah. Susie. I really like that element of the book where we talk about Jezebel was also hesitant about this lifestyle of root work because she didn't want to harm animals or hurt others. And she found her own path through this. And Susie was kind of a highlight and one of her only friends. And I wanted to ask you how you felt about their relationship. Did that feel real to you? I really liked it, but I want to hear what you thought about it.
Yeah, I did. And I related to Jez at the beginning being, you know, she was close to her brother and then her grandmother. Now losing her grandmother, and her brother were in separate grades. And I felt that because I'm like a socially awkward person. And like, you know, once I'm out of my comfort space and with people that I know trying to make new friends, I was like, you're taking me back. And, you know, getting teased for stuff because there are definitely, obviously there was racism, but maybe even like classism too, because they had less money. So they're like, are your clothes hand-me-down or like made by your grandma or something like that? You know, so they looked down on her on that. So I was happy that she had that friend. And it felt real to me, like two of the outcast, I guess you can kind of say, that kind of bond together. And I just was always like, I hope. I was nervous for a while thinking that like Susie was like gonna like play a trick on her in the school or something, or like, you know, sometimes when people like befriend someone and it turns out to be bad. But I thought their friendship, it felt real to me. And also her dealing with, you know, the differences of her brother having his own friends and them kind of growing apart as twins, which I mean, I have no idea, but that must be hard even if your twin is a boy and you're a girl to have spent all this time with this person, and now they're always over there doing their own thing. But
Mhm.
yeah, so many times I was like, oh, Jez, just come here, girl. Give me a hug.
She went through so much in this book. It was surprising because yeah, she was dealing with like kind of losing touch with her brother, and it's like
Yep.
she's like, we're twins, we're supposed to be connected. Like, what's happening?
Stay right here. Yeah. She's like,
Yeah.
a lot of loss. Like she obviously lost her grandmother and then losing this super close connection to her brother. So it was like, oh, yeah, there was some
Oh yeah, I cried so hard, and I think I was surprised that what made me cry most was the friendship with her and Susie. I that can't kind of surprise me that I cared so much about them, but I think it's because that was like her one outlet, like the one person she really trusts that wasn't family. So I feel like, you know, family, there's a little bit of obligation. Like we're twins, like you love me and we shared a womb together. We are bonded. Whereas when you don't have that and you're putting trust into someone just because they stuck up for you, like they were ready to fight for you. And I think I was kind of shocked that I was like, yeah, that's a really important aspect in life that we don't really talk about. It's like friendship is important, and it can change your outlook on life, just having a good friend that has your back. And it can be really hard to find a good one.
Yes, it can. And just even if you know, family obligation, even if you have a great relationship, it's just like for her, obviously going to school is your family can't always be with you. So having a friend, someone separate from your family is really important because those other heathens in the school.
Yes. The heathens. I just like the way you said that. Like you emphasize.
Leave her alone.
Leave her alone. And then I love this. Yes, she does need a hug. I agree. I saw this. She needs a hug. Big old bear hug. And this book is Own Voices. I believe Eden Royce says that she grew up with her family. I don't know if they practiced root magic or if it was that, or not root work, but if it was in her like immediate family or just passed down through word of mouth, because that's kind of how the culture is passed down through word of mouth, which I also like that was touched on in the book, that deciding to write it down so we could all remember. But it is Own Voices, and she's from South Carolina for sure.
Yeah, she's from that area, and I think she said something like her great aunt or her aunt, so definitely a family member in her family when she was younger did root work.
And she grew up in the environment where people were hesitant, but also people who wanted to hold on to the culture because it's something that they're like proud of. So that's why she wanted that like duality in the book as well that we mentioned earlier in the conversation.
Yeah.
Then, and I love how the story gave a look at how Black people in the community lived in the 60s, because we usually see one type of view during this time period. I agree. I think I just read another middle grade that I love that is called, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, Jess, but it's The Rock and the River, which is also taking place. It's Chicago 68. And it's about a guy whose dad is a part of the civil rights movement, and then his brother is a Black Panther. And it's about like that kind of complication. But I do feel like we normally hear only one narrative of the Black community being like, I don't think it's normally in the South. It's normally like New York or Chicago, like big cities where they're going to school. But I love that it shows kind of the South and its struggle with segregation and ending it and things like that. And how there was some struggle about being Black, but not really. A lot of their struggle came from their roots, their culture, and not because of their skin and how like they were ugly or something. I think briefly this book had a line about like, dark isn't ugly. Don't like get that out of your head. But I like that it was we didn't have like the quote unquote struggle in this book.
Yeah. Like it definitely, racism was an element, a definite like evil in the book that's, sometimes worse than the supernatural aspects. But I love that it wasn't the whole thing. It was not even, I don't want to say slice of life, because I feel like that can come off as like boring, but you just got a normal, like a Southern perspective of life, like the mom and them growing their plants and her cooking things that she was going to sell, which is another great thing in the that just made me think of Charleston, like them doing the palmetto flowers, because that's just something they do. Just all those small things about their everyday life, them walking to school, them out in the marsh. Like it just was, I don't know, it was just a great balance of like it had the supernatural element, but then you were just getting to see a normal Black family, and they did have struggles, you know, about money, about racism, but then also, like you said, more talking about the cultural struggle of wanting to keep this part of our history alive and wanting to more assimilate to the normal U.S. culture. So, just love that.
Yeah, it was a really great balance. I think Eden Royce did a great job of like having all of those influences come in, and from this perspective of a child, which can have more curiosity and exploration and trying to understand, well, why are we doing it this way? Well, why are we doing it that way? Because I kind of like, you could see how progress really was made from the 60s to now, where we're still kind of questioning some of those same issues we're facing. But it's great to have that conversation on the page, but also just seeing her being a normal girl going through like dealing with loss, dealing with homework and things like that too. It was really good. Yeah. So yeah, it was nice that racism was not the entire book. That was, we love to see it.
Yeah, because another thing, when she's just like the parts where she's at school and she's just excited about learning, and her teachers teaching them about poetry and Langston Hughes. And then I think there was a part where there was like a woman writer. I don't know if she was a poet, and they're like, women write? Like, yeah, they write books too. Like, just showing you know, different things. And with the homework, they had to do chores, them growing up and being like, you know, kind of embarrassed, like, I don't want to wear that, or I don't want to wear my hair like that to school. It was just, so much. It was a full picture of just life, instead of focusing on, which is a part of the story and it's important, but sometimes when it's the focus, it becomes tired. I'm like, okay, I know.
Yeah. Okay, I know it's hard to be Black. Great. Yeah. I was just telling that to my roommate when I get auditions, because I'm an actor and my character's like, I'm a Black person. It's so hard. And I'm like, was this written by a Black person? Like, so I love to see the expansion of a full character. And I really liked the teacher, because she brought up the point in class that that's why it's so important that we share these stories. Because some guy was like talking about like, well, I don't even like history. And she's like, well, the thing is, if I don't tell my history, people will tell it for me, and they don't have it right. And those people don't even think I matter. So why would I let them tell my history? So that's why I think it's kind of cool as an own voices author to be like, it's important that I say this story. So when everyone tries to be like, well, can I do it? Well, I think I can. It's like, sometimes it's very, very important to let the individual speak. Like, they have the experience, they have the knowledge and the passion. So it was great to see it.
Yeah, I love that with the teacher, because I mean, a lot of time, I mean, I always loved history, but a lot of people do think like, oh, history is boring, it happened in the past. But exactly what she said. And I mean, it's like a common thing when people are like, history is often written by, you know, the conquerors or the winners. So they're always going to have their own version of the story. And so that was a really important part. Like, these people don't even see us as people or think we, you know, consider us fully human. So we have to be the ones to preserve our history and keep that going forward, for sure.
It was so cool to see. I was like, yes, pop off Miss Watson, or whatever her name was. The scariest part of the book was not the more supernatural elements for me, but the humans, that can be scarier. I agree. And maybe we could talk about this part too, because this book does talk about racist or like racism in the South, especially when it comes to, I think, this specific time period where segregation was being like loosened, and like you said, integration was finally about to happen, because I think it was like 9 years after the law passed about how it's illegal and inhumane.
Like, you can't make me. And so they held out as long as they could. They did that. But that daggone, was it Officer Collins? Is that his name?
Yeah, like I think he was a Deputy Collins.
And because it was already racism, obviously, because they were Black and he was a white deputy. But then on top of that, root work, or the people who did that, was also very stigmatized. And so it was like a double thing that they went after them for. And so, yeah, I agree, Gavin. Those parts, you know, when he would show up were more, I was like, oh God, what is he going to do? Like worried about the family and worried about the house and rage.
Rage, outrage.
Memory, rage. Yeah, because just, I can't imagine that time, because it was, I think, I don't know if it was like an internal part monologue or something, or if they said it out loud, that not allowing him in the house, even though it technically wasn't legal, was worse than just let him go through your house and tear it up than not, because it would turn even worse. And I just can't imagine that fear when he arrived. Like, no, thank you.
No, thank you. Hard pass. But like, I think it was something that she was trying to explain to the kids, because like he was like, don't open the door. Because I think, especially us, like, and I feel like we kind of lived through the kids, through Jay and Jezebel being like, don't let him in, like, don't let him do this. And it's like, well, and the mom explains, like, people are being disappeared, people are being taken away because of this, because they don't value us, because the laws don't protect us. And the fact that they don't have a voice in court, like it's not against the law to hurt us. And it's interesting to see that, because we think we have all the power as kids. We're like, we got this, like this is our house. And there's like what you said, there's lessons you learn when you're Black and you're younger in this environment, where you have to grow up quickly and be like, you need to know about the world you live in. And that is definitely the scariest thing, because even when there's like hints and hags and things out there in the woods, it's like, no, like there's an immediate threat in the sense of that we don't have any power. Like, at least with hags and things like that, you salt, you have stuff to prepare. Like, you can kind of figure out a system.
You can protect the house.
Yeah, you can protect the house. But when someone comes in and wants to mess with your family, it has to be so dehumanizing to be like, I literally can't stand up for my children. Or when I try to, I know that I might be sacrificing myself in the end.
Yeah, like I might be hurt. So it's like, do I want to just what's the word? Like swallow my pride and just let them in, and they may hurt something to save my life and my children's life. And yeah, I'm sure the kids are looking like, they can't come in here. Like, you know, you're supposed to tell them that, and having to explain like, well, I don't have that power here, even though this is our home. So yeah, that was definitely an interesting dynamic with the haints and everything, because they can salt, they can, you know, ward off things like that. But with this actual man, they can't stop him from getting in. So, that man.
Yep, the rage. Let's see. Yeah, sometimes I read Black books, and the entire thing, or the entire time being Black, is painted like a burden, and they lack those little moments of just sharing a nice dinner with the family. I completely agree.
Hungry. That mama was cooking.
She was so mad. You want plain rice?
Yeah. You want no beans, no peas,
no butter, nothing?
You better eat that Hoppin' John. I loved it. But yeah, this is just like, it's not something we want to forget, but also we know. So like, can it just not be the whole thing and not a burden? Because even, I think another great thing this book shows is, even during a time like that, which I can't imagine living in America, and with that constant threat of the cops and all these things, they still had moments of joy. And I think that's what some forms of media, books, TV shows, whatever, sometimes lack, is like, yes, these things exist, even if it was like during slavery, but there was always moments of joy. Like, we could always find some kind of happiness, some moment to celebrate something. And it's just a nice balance to have, because that's how they survive.
That's how they survive, and that's how you live your life. You can't only focus on the negative or the racism, or because a lot of those things, sad to say, are out of your power. People will see you as they see you, kind of like how the bullies were in this book, or how they had to manage the police officers. You kind of have to, life will happen, but it's what you do in between those moments, how you hold yourself and things like that. I also really like how they talked about the mom standing up straight, and even though she had to respect the police officer, how she held her ground in the only way she could in her actions, and how that's really valuable too. So it's like, yeah, these people are happy. These people live their lives, but they do have a strong spine too. You have to have both. You have to realize the world you live in, but also that it's gonna be a good life if you have a good family and you look out for each other too. It was really sweet.
Yes, I think that was a big theme of just like taking care of each other, and even if you don't always like Jez and Jay, even if you don't always get along or see eye to eye. Or, you know, when the parent or the mom and the uncle had to, you know, impart or place those boundaries, be like, hey, this is where this is grown folks' business. You stay over there. It's still at the end was not like some free for all, but it was still like, I do these things because I love you, because I want the best for you. And I was just like,
yep,
emotions.
How dare you have me have all these emotions? Like, I love you, but I hate you at the same time.
Dang it, Eden. How dare.
How dare you? Oh, and I wanted to ask you about the magic, how you felt about that element. Because we talked a little about the parents and then the kids and friendship. How did you feel about the magic, the atmosphere? I think Gavin also mentioned that. To me, I love that aspect. I don't know if it was my favorite. I think I kind of like the family element more. Like, that really brings it home to me. But how'd you like the magic, the kind of mystery? It was a little spooky sometimes, and then listening to the audiobook was even creepier than like just reading it. Like, when I listened to the audiobook, I was like, those are the voices.
Because I read the ebook first when I read it at the beginning of the year, but I just read and I listened to the audio, and yeah, like when the whisper, I was like, because I like to like listen to audiobooks, and I played The Sims when I was in this room, but the lights were off, and I was like, I don't like that. It did have like this great mix of, and for a middle grade, I think still appropriate, but it did give me some creepy, spooky vibes. And like Gavin said, the atmosphere was so good. So I was picturing in my mind like the marsh and the mud, and like when Jez got stuck in the mud, I was panicked, I was worried. And so those moments where there were little scarier things that were like the magic, supernatural. I mean, I did really like them. I still think I'm with you with like the family and stuff was definitely the top highlight, but I still did like that, and how it was intertwined with just the Southern, what do you call it? Like, not history, but superstitions and stories that you hear in the South that I'm sure started with Gullah Geechee people, but things that I always heard, you know, about boo hags and haints. You paint the underside of, I know in the book they painted their whole house blue. I know a lot of people was you paint the underside of your porch, like the ceiling of your porch a certain blue to keep the haints and the hags away. So it just was like another thing. I'm like, this just feels so familiar, but awesome to see like a magical twist in the story and how that played out with like Jez and a person. And I was like, oh, okay.
Like, maybe we don't know everything that's happening here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I don't know, it was a great ride for me because I didn't see I didn't expect where that was going. And I was like, oh, all right. And yeah.
I was about to say, you said that earlier, and it made me think of it earlier too, where it was like her friend was being a little like sneaky, and I'm like, oh no, this is gonna prove like the culture of like them being bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love the idea that their friendship of them being oddballs. Well, we're like 43 minutes in. I'm gonna do a little spoilers. I'm just letting you guys know, just so letting you take the moment to click away now if you don't want any spoilers. But the Susie being what they call it, because was she a hag or was she I don't know if they had a terminology for her.
I feel like she was she the boo hag because she left her skin?
She left her body. Yeah. Okay.
Ooh.
Her being a boo hag, that scene was a little but the idea that she was kind of using Jezebel, I felt that when she's like, oh, I'm not going to come home with you, or I want to keep asking about root magic. And I was like, oh no, she's going to like stab her in the back. And then when she became like, when we learned that she was a boo hag, I was like, dang, now we're just going to have to kill her off? Like, that's so rude.
rereading it, I caught those little things where I'm like, oh, where in the beginning I thought, I was like, she's trying to set her up. She's trying to set Jez up. But rereading it and then catching those little hints like yeah, my family used to live here a long time ago and now we're back. And Jez is like, well, I don't know that family name, but I guess I don't know everybody. But yeah, I was like, well, dang, she's not setting her up, but she's basically a demon. What are we going to do now?
She's a demon.
Yeah, I was like, but the skin part on that Eden's interview with Gavin, when she was talking about like that story that was told to her, I forgot like the rhyme she said, but I was just like, I don't know, it like made my skin crawl. I was like, ooh, that's a little creepy.
Definitely a little creepy.
Yeah.
But it was definitely cool that in this book, when we're talking about accepting people's differences and Jez learning about this whole other world that's intertwined in our world and how we really can't see it and we don't understand it, but how people are teaching her to be afraid of it or like to protect yourself from it. So it's interesting that as she grows up, people are scared of what she does, but she takes her knowledge and she's like, I'm not going to be scared of this new thing. I'm going to follow my intuition, be safe, and follow my intuition. And like Susie, being the boo hag, has shown that she would fight for me, that she supports me. So it's like, I'm going to take the opportunity to not be scared and fearful of this unknown and give it a chance to, you know, what are you going to do? What do you need from me so you can pass on peacefully or you can move on with your life? So I really like that from all sides, we were learning that being different is okay, but still being scared of like supernatural stuff. Like, don't just walk around in the marsh for no reason. Like, have your brother.
Pull out a flashlight. Don't be doing that. You can get stuck. Yeah, there's so many great metaphors for that, especially with Susie. You know, obviously she didn't know up front that she was a boo hag, but she obviously was new. She was different. And it was, especially for kids, a great metaphor, I think, to like, it's okay. You don't have to be scared. Like, it's not I think that sometimes in real life, people take people being different literally as like you can get sick from it or something. Like, oh, don't touch them. Don't go near them. And I think it was like, obviously, like, listen to your intuition, your gut, but if, you know, it's okay to reach out and maybe go outside of your comfort zone and befriend somebody or get to know somebody. Like you said, not being scared of the unknown. You don't even know like why. There was no reason. Obviously later we find out that she was a boo hag, but it was different because of all the, you know, feelings and the relationship that they had built. But I think that was a great metaphor for like, you know, people just judge what they see or what they don't know and are like, no thanks, when you could really benefit from, you know, just getting to know people and not judging a book by its cover.
Yeah, exactly. Like, now you have a lifelong friend because someone who you guys built a relationship on and trust on, and then you just kept going, even if it was a little scary, even if it was a little new, you guys kept going. And I love that. And then Daughters of Jubilation. I don't know if you also heard that.
We still have to read this one. Let me write that.
I still have to read it too. I was gonna put it as one of my options for the Brown Girl Book Club. I'm looking for it. It's on this shelf somewhere. I found it. Beautiful book. I definitely need
that cover.
I need to read it.
And set in South Carolina. What are these authors? Are they just thinking about me?
They are. They're writing books right just to you. They're like, here you go. I know you want
like just loving the root. I don't know, like the root work. Did you read Legendborn?
No, this is another book that I need to get on. But I have it and I want to read it very soon.
Yeah, because it's not a spoiler, but it's some magic in there, and that was just something I wanted explored more because I loved it so much in here. And I can't remember that I ever because like my family's not Gullah Geechee, but like I just have known people who are. So I didn't know really before reading this book about root magic, but it is like an African like religion. And I, like you said earlier, I loved how much it was like a commune, a balance with the earth, and how their uncle was like, you know, if you take these certain things, you have to give this back. Or, you know, you take this, like the dirt from the grave. You always have to give something back in this balance. And then how Jez, you know, made it work with her and her care for animals. She was so sweet. She's like, no.
She's like, I don't even think I want to do this anymore. If I have to hurt a single bat, no.
Not a kitty cat, no. And so just, that consciousness of like, because I feel like, you know, in a traditional fantasy, I guess, there's usually a limit, like magic has a limit or a consequence. And I feel like this kind of did that with just like a balance of like, if you take this, you have to give this back if you want this to work. Because this obviously was she described it in her interview as a historical Southern Gothic, but obviously it had fantastical elements. But still, I just like that balance they had with the earth. And I love just the basis of root work and how she said, because in real life they did that because on those sea islands, and it depends on which island, some are less or harder to get to than others. I'm sure back then it was even harder then, but how a lot of Black people couldn't even go to doctors. And that probably was a combination of physically getting there and then, you know, being Black. And so they had to depend on root workers to make tinctures and balms or whatever. But then they also were in danger because they could get thrown in jail for practicing medicine without a license. So it was like, well, we can't get to the hospital. We try to help out our folks. Like, what you want us to do? Just let us die? So
yeah, exactly. They want you to sit there and die.
Basically, yeah. I don't know. You know why I asked that question? They're like, yes, that's exactly what we want you to do. So I'm just fascinated by root and just all the different things that they did.
Were brought up, yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
I also love, you kind of mentioned it. The balance. There was a conversation in the book where Jez, she wanted to kind of get back at the bullies. She was like, give me a jinx, give me something. And he's like, you don't want to open that can of worms because it could easily be reversed. So I like that the limitation, like you said, it wasn't like a limitation of your own power. It's a limitation of the balance of the world. Like if you sway to the side of doing things with bad intent, you should expect that back. Like I kind of like how karma kind of came into this, and being the limitation is who you are as a person. Like who do you want to be? Like, do you want to be that person who takes cat bones or does things like that?
Yeah, because it could be easy in that moment, but then it feels like it would lead to a lot more negative. I love that he was like, no, let me tell you, in the moment, you might feel like you want to do that, but the bigger picture, you don't want to go down that road. So,
yeah. And then Gavin has a question. He's like, would you both say it's one of your favorite middle grade books of all time?
All time. Do that. Currently, yes. Yeah. My God. Anybody want to make me a special edition? I'll take it. Anybody? Ready.
Yes. I'm out here advertising for a sequel, a series, question mark, maybe. Eden, you hear this?
Adaptation. I want it all.
Yes, that'd be so good. I do say this is one of my top favorites. I really, really, really enjoy this. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite all time. That sounds like a lot of pressure, and I'm not the middle grade queen. I don't read enough middle grade, but from what I've read, this is definitely has a place in my heart. It was a 5-star, and this is something I think I would want to pick up and reread and just be a part of that world and just be a part of that family. And I would love to see them grow more. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I've only recently started reading middle grade. So I said, that's why I'm like, up right now. Yes. But definitely something I would return to again. And whether it's another book in this series or whatever, I think she said she has at least 2 more middle grades contracted. I'm like, I'm ready.
I'm ready. I wonder if there's still going to be middle grade, but I heard, in Gavin's live show that she has 2 more books coming, which is very exciting. We all here stand Eden Roy's, so we're ready for her next book. We're ready to drop that coin.
Yes, immediately.
Okay, and I like root is being explored in a more positive way, yes, because it is present in all throughout the diaspora. I love that. It sucks that there's a stigma against it. like Clap When You Land. Oh yeah.
Oh, that was a
I
good
don't remember Clap When You Land as well as like Poet X because I've read Poet X a lot. Whereas Clap When You
one.
Land, I think I've read once.
I need to read Poet X, but I read, yeah, Clap With You. I feel like that happens with so many non-Western like religions or spiritualities, because there's so many different like African religions, and then people obviously we're here now, and in the Western world they've just been demonized by Christianity of like anything that's, you know, oh, you're working with the earth or you're mixing into things together. I think Eden said in that interview also like voodoo. That's often portrayed really negatively in the media. So I always feel like in things, anything that's not like a Western religion is usually always portrayed really negatively or has a stigma. So I like that. And I hope more work, you know, more people with different ties to different, you know, places put like different religions and magics, you know, things into books so they can have less stigma.
Yeah, the exploration is so important, and I feel like after picking up this book, it's definitely telling that you shouldn't be scared of what you don't understand. It's like if you don't understand something, maybe take the time to see it because you might learn from it. You might actually like it. Find a friend. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so much. Yeah, I just love this book just because of what it contains, but that it could just be applied to so many things. And so I just love that because, yeah, it's like ask if you don't know about it, ask about it, you know, like get to know it or them. It's as easy as that, but some people just choose to be like, nope, I'm going to write out the whole thing, the whole people, the whole whatever.
And that's definitely the easy way out. Like I feel like when it comes to religions that are bigger and have more power, I don't know what the need to crush things that are smaller that may question them, but it's like, hey, if this is something that's small and within a community and we're not affecting you, it's like, why don't you take the time that we see each other? Like, and I think that's the funny thing too. It's like when it comes to people who may practice root magic or voodoo or Valdoom, or I forget how they say it too. I took like an African religious studies course about how we don't even understand that a lot of what they do is very similar to what regular science does. But it's interesting to think that we don't come to your door asking you to stop, in the sense of root magic. It's not telling Christianity you have it wrong. So it's interesting that in the power dynamic, it's like, why are you using your oppressive power in this way instead of like you're being a bully? Like it's so interesting to see people who have power, who have control, but still decide to lash out on smaller groups. And it's like, you're wasting your time and energy. I'm literally not endangering you. But I guess it's the idea that like any other source of knowledge and power may come up and question us eventually. But it's like, why are you living in that fear instead of living in your present?
Yeah.
And if people would join you and your group and your organization, if you, instead of attacking us, explained your ways. It's just so interesting that we quickly turn to distrust and fear. It's kind of sad.
I mean, it's just like you said with like, it really is the oppressor kind of thing. It's never that you could just leave them alone. It's always like everyone needs to be doing exactly what we're doing or else. And it just doesn't make any sense where you already have millions of people doing this. So just let these people who are going to, you know, stay with their ancestral, you know, rituals or rites. Like, but it's never enough for some reason. It's like, no. We're knocking on your door. We're coming into your village and you need to do what we say. And so glad in this story that, you know, even if the mother was hesitant, the uncle was there to pass that down, because that's how things get lost. Is it can, one family or one generation doesn't pass it on, and then there's multiple that will lose that history.
Yeah, and then it's gone for good. You can't recover that. And that's so sad to say that, like, because of the fear of losing your own life and your livelihood and your family, you're like, okay, we have to assimilate because the other option is to be weeded out. And it's very sad that that's the world we live in. But I also like that this family had the courage. And I think now that we're in 2021, more people can have that courage, and sharing their own stories is so important. And that's why we fight to have our voices heard, because it means something. It changes people's lives to have this. And you even were like, yeah, I'm from South Carolina. I know this area. I know that food. It means something. It means a lot. So it's to give people the power they already have, basically, instead of not acknowledging it and doing what we normally do. It's like, no, let them have whatever power they have and share their stories. Worst thing is that more people are educated. It's like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a pretty good thing.
Yeah, it is. And I hope that this train just keeps going, like more stories and more people can just connect with their history, because I feel like so much of, I mean, the product of Western countries, you know, and all of their conquering is that they tried to stomp out so much. And I'm sure there's so much that has been lost. And so I always get sad that I'm like, I wish I had like direct ties to, you know, like knew I had family on the mother continent or something, because I would like obviously I have Black American culture, which is a you know big thing, but I'm like, I would like to have that tie to, you know, an ancestor from the mother continent, like Jez and Jay have in root magic, because that's an African tradition that got passed down. So sometimes that makes me sad, but happy that, you know, those things have persisted through some people and in other cultures and religions and such. But yeah, the whole oppressor, colonize, all that madness that just tries to make the world the same, which is so boring.
Yeah, it is. It's boring, and it's just not beneficial to anyone. There's so much resources and just livelihood waste over that, and it's so silly. And it is kind of sad to not have that connection. But I think it just brings me so much joy to see stories like this, to see the persistence still alive, and doing our part in talking about it and sharing about it is the least that we can do, because it's like, it's out there. We know it's out there. Let's read about it. Let's explore it. And this is such a fun book to do that with, where it's like, it's not just about the Black struggle. It's about so much more: friendship, family, culturally. It's fun that this is what we can do now in the future. So it's like, it's a little sad that maybe as individuals we don't have that connection, but it's so exciting to see that people who have those connections are still persisting, and they're like still rising up, and that's really cool.
And sharing their stories in a unique way, because, you know, some people are hesitant to pick up certain things, or maybe nonfiction, and this is a way of sharing a culture and sharing a history, but still with a fun, spooky story, and really accessible, because it is middle grade. So like multiple, you know, middle grade and up can read it. So yeah, we love to see it.
Love it. Love it. Oh my gosh. And then if anyone has any more questions, let us know in the comments, because it is getting close to the hour mark. And then I wanted to ask Jess, did you have any comments about parts that you maybe haven't mentioned that you really liked or appreciated before we wrap up?
Let me look at my notes. I feel like we touched on everything. The last thing was from the interview that she did with Gavin. One thing was, you know, just embracing who you are. And so I just think there's so many messages in the book. And if anyone was like, it's not typically my genre, I feel like it's really accessible, because it's not like a horror novel. It's not a full fantasy. It's not a fantasy novel. It's amazing. So I just hope everyone reads it, because I think it is very appropriate for today, because sadly we still go through these things. It's not the same. Obviously we have more laws, you know, but we still are going through so many struggles. And so hopefully with this being presented to young readers, that just makes the next generation more aware, more open. But I think, yeah, this book has a lot to offer and teach, and I just loved it.
Yes. So I hope for everyone, like, I'm glad that also so many people in the comments really, really enjoyed it. Do we have a question? how did you feel about the portrayal of grief, especially surrounding the loss of the grandparents? Um, I personally thought it was such a good representation in the sense that she kept longing and trying to find that connection through her grandparent. Because when you lose a grandparent, like I can't imagine losing it as a child, a grandparent, but as an adult, you're constantly like, okay, what lessons did they like teach me? Thinking of the happy moments, but also being a little sad about like, and the longing. I loved that that longing was persistent, that we didn't just lose a grandparent and we're like, okay, bye. Like, it's like, no, it means a lot to lose someone.
Yeah, the same. I can't imagine it as a child either. One of my grandmother passed 2 years ago, and I mean, I still think of that often. So yeah, that same thing of, at certain moments or, a certain thing makes you think of them. And especially how close she was with her grandmother. I love those reflections on the relationship and how strong of a connection that they had. But to me, it felt authentic and real as it could for a child. I feel like that, especially one you lived with, who was there with you all the time and all that information. Because I always think about what what my grandmother taught me, but also me in my head as an adult. I'm like, what did I miss out on? Because I haven't lived at home for so long. But I thought it was a good portrayal of it, and it made me sad.
So sad, so sad. And there's a lot of authenticity in the grief, and I like how it wasn't like conquered. It wasn't like she got over it. It's just something that I think becomes a part of you, and you just find a way to work through it.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think a lot of people can relate to, and hopefully not too many people in like the middle grade area.
Oh yeah.
I really hope they don't have to go through that, but when they do, it'll be nice to have this to lean on, to be like, it's not just me who's having a hard day. And even Jay, who's normally like a stronger, like in a sense, stronger character, like emotionally, he doesn't talk about his emotions too much. But he was like, yeah, I miss her too. Like they're all going through it in their own way. And I really like that representation.
Yeah. Especially showing
you can say what you're saying.
In the context of that, in the story, another thing was like they kept her memory alive by doing the proud, and they were always thinking of her. So I was like, do it for grandma.
Do it for grandma. Yes. I love that. And then someone asked what the next book is, and I don't have a physical copy. It's available on Kindle for like, I think $1. It's Elemental Shadows of the Other Side by Whitney Hill. So there was a bunch of indie authors that I just kind of found, and I was like, let's do that for next month, for June. So that's the June book pick. I'm really excited to read it. It looks badass, and I really like how she looks. I think she's beautiful. Okay, I just had to point that out. Okay, that and the live show will be at probably the beginning of June, so you have plenty of time to read it. And then we have another question. Also, I know Onyx Pages also did an interview with Eden Royce. I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet, but that is also available for you guys if you guys want more Eden Royce content.
I do.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So go watch Gavin's live. Go to Onyx Pages and check out their live. So what do you want to see in the sequel? So if we are blessed in this world with a Root Magic sequel, what do we want to see?
Dang. It would depend, I guess, would it stay, it would have to be in the middle grade range, right? I'm trying to think. Because I was going to say her going, oh gosh, I just knew I wanted one. Why are you making me think a thought out?
You have to write the book. You have to write the book. You have to see it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess it would be like a continuation. I don't know.
I think I would want a summer of exploration of magic. I think I would really love to see Jay's perspective when it comes to magic, because I think at the end we kind of alluded that he is powerful. He just doesn't trust his power yet. Yeah. So I'd love to see his kind of either his fear and learning to accept it, or if he decides not to do it or whatever, I want to see his journey. I want to see whatever happens with him, and I want to see their power evolve. I would love to see that.
That would be now, like, especially from his perspective, because it was, although they were both the, like, kind of both the main characters, it definitely was more focused on Jez and her connection, and her power. Oh, yes, I'm just looking at all of Onyx pages.
Yeah.
More spirit realm. Yeah, that'd be, if it was
It's
just
set in North Carolina. We love you. I will always shout you out.
Yeah, definitely an exploration of just them learning more and getting more secure in their power. And yeah, no more sheriff. Just kidding. They're probably
we don't need the sheriff. Well, I think, okay, I don't know if it was just me, but the sheriff kind of seemed to like the mom a little bit. Did we pick up on that?
Oh, okay. And some corn on the, okay, sir.
He wanted to hold her hand at some point. He was like, I was reaching for, and then he stopped. He's like, that's inappropriate. I won't.
My bad. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind that little side love story. Maybe that completes the family. But yeah, them getting secure in their magic, and maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think like who else would come into the story, but definitely.
Sorry. Gross. We're here like thinking like, oh, maybe it'll add to the family. She's like, yup, gross.
Oh no, sorry, this is not professional. Please stop it. Or maybe if, I don't know, I was gonna say maybe if there was another like family in the area who did root work and they like shared different things. I just want more of it. And more root, more, yeah, spirit realm, definitely Jay, see what all the tricks and stuff he has up his sleeve. And
yeah, more man. I want it all. And then wait, oh, you haven't read it yet, even though I have it from the library. Here to support. Yes, you definitely need to very soon. Hopefully, I'm glad your library has it. So I hope you enjoy it as much as like everyone else in the comments has said that they've enjoyed it, and obviously me and Jess really enjoyed it. So I'm hopeful that you will also love it. Yes, another cool family in the area. Hook it up.
What would you like to see? Do you have, I bet you have a better idea than me, because I'm just like, as soon as we get off this live, I'm going to be like, oh, I just thought of it.
All the ideas pour out of you as soon as you're like alone in bed, like ready to go to sleep. You're like,
and I'm like, I thought of it. Let me email Ian Royce. Do you need ideas?
I got you.
Yes.
Love that. Okay. I think if there's no more questions, deepening and maturing of the skills. I think a big thing that could be just focus on is the magic and the world itself, and like the root work.
Like, hey Susie, hey girl.
Susie's like, I'm here to help.
Yes.
Okay. Ooh, and then I want her to get back at the school bullies. Maybe
her magic, but how would she? In a good, we got to think of that.
Yeah, for me, I'm always that person who's like, oh, I'm going to be the bigger person, and that's how I like being successful is like better, or like best. Yeah. What's like the best form of revenge is success. I don't know if that's
something like that.
Phrase. But I know other people are like, okay, I'm ready to throw a rock at your face.
I mean, them girls, they were terrible. So
they were terrible. Agreed.
Yeah, I like that, with confidence for sure.
With confidence. Yeah, we love to see it. Her being confident and developing her magical skills. Yes.
It's like, oh, I'll see you at my door. You'll be asking for something.
Yeah, you're gonna need some. You want some romantic advice because you can't hold down a boyfriend. I'm here to help you.
Yep.
Oh my god! But I'm pretty sure sometimes her flexing her flexing her magic. That's what they did with the officer, that deputy guy. They're like, I'm gonna call my magical friends, and you're gonna be swept away. We're not gonna hear back from you.
Sometimes you gotta just give them a little bit, scare them a little bit.
Yep, magic being used for revenge. Maybe we might want to see it. I don't know. Eden's gonna have a hard time writing this, figuring out what to do.
She's got a lot of ideas now.
Plenty of material. Okay, I think that is a good place to kind of wrap it up. Make sure you guys follow the Twitter accounts, and also go follow Jess. I don't know if I'm ever pointing to the right direction. Make sure to follow Jess if you haven't seen her channel. It's amazing. It's great. Highly recommend. So definitely check that out. Also, if you haven't had the chance, check out Root Magic. It is nothing but a just precious gem of a book that talks about life and everything in between. So please check it out. Love it with all my heart. And thank you guys for spending this time with us. It really means a lot. And I guess we'll see you maybe next month for the next Brown Girl Book Club live show. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.